Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Daniel. Daniel is from Boston in Massachusetts in the USA. So let's see what Daniel has to say. Enjoy the interview. So hello Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for taking the time today for the interview. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, how's your day going so far?
Honestly, pretty good. It's been very uneventful. It's my first day sort of back at work after a wedding. So now I'm kind of like having to actually remember that I have a job.
So you're at the wedding.
Yeah, it was my boyfriend's friends from Mexico. So we flew down there, went to Puebla, and stayed at an ex hacienda, which was super fun.
Oh
But
wow.
it was a very long day of traveling.
Amazing. So tell me, how was the wedding? What was the highlights of the wedding in your
Yeah.
opinion?
So I would say the highlight of the wedding is we have this kind of guessing game we play every time. So at Mexican weddings, there's something called the captain of the table. They essentially
Mhm.
have a bottle of tamarind vodka that their job is to get everyone else to drink it. And so we always play this fun game where we guess who's going to be the captains at each wedding. And
Okay.
there's a couple people that specifically are like really gunning for it. And we always tease them with like, oh, you might get it this time. You might get it this time. And then they never do.
Amazing. And your partner is from Mexico then?
Correct. Yeah.
I see. And where are you from, Danny?
So I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. So if this is a little mitten, it's right about here.
Okay.
It's like I am very proud of Detroit. I think it gets a bad rap from a lot of people, so I'm like a staunch defender.
Right. But right now you're based in Detroit as well or not?
No, I moved to Boston about 4 years ago.
And why Boston?
So my partner got a job. We were dating at the time over the pandemic. I was kind of in my COVID semester, in which I was graduating from college by shutting my laptop. And so
Uh-huh.
I was really not that attached to the place I had grown up. Obviously, I love it, but I sort of felt like it was time for me to do other things, and I wasn't too particular about where. It
Uh-huh.
worked out really well because I love the city and I
Wow.
didn't think I would love it as much as I do for sure.
What's the biggest difference between Boston and Detroit and the biggest similarity in your
I
opinion
would
so
say the biggest difference is definitely public transit. So Detroit has public transit, but it's not exceptionally effective or great.
far?
Compared to that, people in Boston complain about the public transit here, but it is wonderful in my opinion. I think it's great. It is it is sometimes slow, but it doesn't like it has not let me down yet.
I see. And the big similarity.
I would say the biggest similarity is people from Detroit and people from Boston are always hustling. Like there's Detroit versus everybody, and there's sort of wicked smart is the Boston phrase. And both of them I think are really similar in a way because
Uh-huh.
it's all about the sort of motivation. The people that live here and in Detroit are very busy people and they got places to be.
I believe that the weather is quite similar, isn't it,
Oh
or
yeah,
not?
absolutely. Ironically, like I grew up hearing about these nor'easter storms. The Midwest has worse snow. So it's like I thought it was going to be harder, but it's actually been easier.
Wow. And are you planning to stay there for a long while in Boston?
That's the current plan, at least. It's sort of both of the two jobs I've worked are in Boston. I love both of them. And then I've sort of set up my own little circle here. So, it would feel a little bizarre leaving that.
Actually, the last time I went to the US, I went to Boston
Oh,
actually.
no way.
Yeah. So
Where'd you go?
my best friend he lives in Montreal in Canada.
Hmm.
And another friend of mine, we drove. His English. He was in New York City, so he met me in Montreal, and from there we drove all the way to Boston. We stayed there, I think, for 3 nights, and after that we went to the gayest city I ever been, Provincetown,
Oh, yep, yep,
Cape Cod.
yep.
So we went to Cape Cod, which was an amazing, tour. We went to the Kennedy's museum. There's a few places there, but yeah, it was amazing. The city, I love Boston. It was an amazing experience. I love walking around the city. Yeah, it was great.
People here always joke the roads are made for horses and not people or cars. So it's all windy, it's all a maze.
And what do you do for work, for living, Jenny?
I work two jobs. I work as a beekeeper for a company called the Best Bees Company. It's the super cool concept where basically it's private beekeeping, which is if you were a client, I would come to your house, put the bees on your property, you would get all of the honey, but you would pay me to do all of the work. So it's
I,
this really cool idea where it's
what?
sort of addresses both populations of beekeepers and clients, where I want to see more hives than just the ones I'm able to put on my house. I live in a Boston apartment and I'm not able to keep things myself.
Right.
So what I sort of did to supplement that passion is by being able to go do it for other people. I can see like 8 to 10 hives a day if I go on a route, and I don't have to pay anything to do it. So it's a good sort of mutualism there. And then my other job is I work as a hospitality coordinator over at the Spotify Boston office.
Wow.
Basically, what that is I just sort of facilitate office interactions, keep things supplied. I call it the vibes committee because it's very much just keeping morale up and addressing things as they come up. It's sort of into one of those things where I am just really, I like being involved, as I'm sure you can tell.
Wow.
It's one of those things where I've learned how to do so many like IT fixes, learned so much about music. And I love this job because it's really kept me learning.
I'll tell you something, Daniel. I had an interview with a lovely man from Sweden last week or the week before. And for the first time, I find out that Spotify is Swedish. I didn't know that.
Really? They have this really cool thing called like intro days where it's if you get officially hired. I didn't go on this because I'm just a consultant, but you get to go to Sweden for their like beginning seminar or whatever. And it seems super interesting.
Wow, he made my day because, I mean, and actually about IKEA as well. I don't know if there's IKEA in the US.
Yeah, that's Swedish.
Yeah. So yeah, they're Swedish, and we were talking about Sweden. He lives in London, and I also he was telling me about ABBA, about Jorn, about the singers, and he was like, really, actually, Spotify is from Sweden as well. I was like, oh my god, I didn't know that. It just made my day.
I always make the joke because it's our CEO. His name is Daniel Eck. My name is Daniel Ephlin. And so whenever people have to sign into the Boston office, they type Daniel, and there's two options that come up. And I'm like, it's the less famous one.
Danielle, so tell me, before we start our journey within the Magic Box, tell me something that not many people know about you or something interesting about you.
I would say probably something that not a lot of people know about me is that I may come across like really, really bubbly, but I'm actually very like calculated. I think oftentimes my voice fluctuates and I come across in a very sort of energetic manner.
You do.
And it is not always sort of actually matching the energy level I have inside. It's more of like one of those things where it's just, I don't know. That's just how I've been presenting myself. So I feel like it often surprises people when I come across as more observant than initially expected.
Wow, amazing. Danielle, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point of views?
Let's do it. Also, I apologize if my laptop dies halfway through. It's okay. It's at 15% right now. I can go grab a charger.
Oh my God, get a charger. Can you get a charger?
Back.
Yeah. Okay, all ready? Perfect.
I'm ready.
Amazing. Right, so I'm just going to play a song now just for us to relax a bit before the first question, okay?
Sounds good.
Let's do it. Right, so before we start the game, during the journey, if it comes up a question that you don't want to talk about, some reason you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Sounds good.
First question for you is, what does happiness mean to you?
I think happiness to me is sort of the lack of wanting more, which is hard to, get to. But for me, happiness is sort of the thing where I'm not thinking at all. It's like when you're laying on the beach and you're so relaxed that you could fall asleep. It's when you're letting time go by so fast you don't even know it flies. It's sort of not feeling like you're missing something is what happiness it looks like to me.
Do you think that happiness is a choice?
Yes and no. I think there's certainly self-imposed obstacles, but I also think there's external circumstances that we can't do anything about. I think everybody only has so much they can take, so it's reasonable that some people might not be able to turn a bad day into a good one. But at the same time, I think there's plenty of people that also turn great days into bad ones too.
Tell me something, when you think about, your life, what's the happiest point of your life so far? If something comes up now for you, what that would be?
Yeah, I would say the happiest point in my life is probably the day I learned how to be a beekeeper, which sounds really corny, but it was sort of, I fell into it by sheer accident. I made a lot of jokes in college that I was going to drop out of college to go do it.
Wow.
When I moved to Boston and realized I finally got the opportunity to like do something I'd always wanted to, I applied for the job thinking, I have zero experience. Why would they hire me? But they did. And it blew my mind. And it was one of those things where I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful I got the opportunity to learn. And I like developed so much from just that, where it's like
Wow.
chasing a dream and having it actually come true was pretty crazy.
That's amazing. And being a beekeeper, walk me through a little bit about your day when you are going to a
Yeah.
client to to set everything. Tell me about it.
So essentially, the way the beekeeping program went when I was there is you would have 10 or 12 clients a day. Just like any other technician, you'd be driving to different people's houses, businesses, etc. And there's usually a specific set of steps you're doing for each time of the month, whether it be putting the bees in the hive, pulling out the frames and extracting the honey, checking on the queen. And so largely it's just you're doing the same step 12 times every day for a month. And then the next month you'll change. So it's like, what cycle is it currently? Right now, they're probably just expanding the boxes out, making sure that the bees are growing in population. And then swarm season is actually about to start pretty soon here, which is where you start to see bees collect in the wild, and then they send you out to go catch them.
Oh my God. And anyone can have bees in their house? They can set up like a place or not?
I think it depends. If you
Mm-hmm.
own the property, I think you're allowed to. Massachusetts has a new thing where now if you pay $25 to the city of Boston, you can keep bees on your property that you own. However,
Wow.
that's the kicker is own, because not a lot of people own property in a city like this.
Right. Okay. Next.
I would say like the main place I
Uh,
see them is like businesses. They get a carbon tax credit based off of the pollinators they have on their roof.
I
And so
see.
it's a kind of beneficial thing where I'm happy to go on, the 81st floor of a Boston building to check it out and go on the roof. That's fine with me.
Tell me something. And do you think Boston? It's very popular about people they want to have or business they want to have bees in their properties or business, or it's in Detroit was the same as well in your opinion?
I would say I wasn't as into it when I lived in Detroit, but I would say it really didn't have the same sort of basis.
Okay.
Detroit has a lot of sort of agriculturally relevant land it can use for a lot of things.
Right.
So it's not as much of a competition for space, or it's not as much of a competition for even green space.
I
But so
see.
with a city like Boston specifically, where there's not really a forest near me, once you drive out and, further downstate, yeah, sure. But at least here, you've got to work with the little resources you're given.
I
And so I
see.
think here it's very much like a go, go, go mindset, where Detroit, you get a little bit more lax of a nature of what you're doing.
I see. Okay. Next question. Hey Daniel. Next question is, what is your most embarrassing moment?
Oh my God. I would say there was a marching band competition I did my senior year of high school, and I completely forgot. Like somehow I had done the routine a million times, just forgot. And it wasn't one of those settings where it's like just you performing where like you can play it off. I'm like the only one out of like the 300 kids that forgot. So I was like, whoops.
Oh my
It was
God.
so embarrassing. Then I literally didn't even want to go to school the next day because I was like, everyone's gonna know. In hindsight, it's not a big deal at all. But at the time, I was so embarrassed of the public spectacle.
Did you like school growing up?
Um, I think not as much as I would now.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't like. I came from a really small town like in Michigan near Detroit, where it's like I didn't realize sort of how big the world was at the time, and I thought that was all it was ever going to be.
Right.
And so I think with the approach now, I would look at it differently. At the time, I very much like I was one of maybe two or three gay kids. Like it wasn't the easiest thing on the planet.
I
I
see.
was I was very like not unconfident about it, but there were definitely passes I gave people that in hindsight I'm like, wow, I would advocate for myself a little better now.
Wow, amazing. Next question. Hey, Danielle, before the next question, tell me, Detroit. If I would come to Detroit for the very first time, tell me a place that I should visit, that I cannot miss it. It's a postcard of Detroit or Michigan.
I would
What?
say Belle Isle for sure.
The what?
So it's called Belle Isle. It's essentially like a little amusement park on an island. There was a very funny meme a couple of years ago of people going down slides on it because the slides are like way too fast. So they're like, flying up, hitting themselves. That part doesn't sound fun, I know, but it's fun to watch people. If
Amazing.
not that, I would say, oh God, what's it called? Campus Meredith is what it's called. There's this ice skating in the middle of downtown Detroit that they do in the winter. It's very romantic, right in the heart of the city, so it's just beautiful.
I see. And all your family are back there?
My mom is back there,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad lives near there as well. But so I'm a triplet. Both my brothers and I have all moved states, live pretty far from there now.
Wow. Saying that, which person in your family you are more close to?
Oh, absolutely. My youngest brother, Zachary. So, he's youngest by 2 minutes, but
So you're twin.
triplets.
Oh my God, you're triplets. Now I got it. Now I understood. Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Identicals or not?
No, not identical.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
I would not change anything about it for the world.
that's amazing. So tell me, how was growing up, having two other brothers, like, the same birthdays, growing up with
Yeah.
the same. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
So I would say it's kind of like a rule of three situation where it's like there are pieces of my personality that absolutely I share with one brother. There are like pieces I share with the other. There are pieces the two share with each other and not me. And so when we were little, it was a lot of like fighting about who felt excluded. But now as we've gotten older, like I love my relationship with both of my brothers, and they're two of the closest people in my life. So
Wow.
yeah, I adore it.
Oh, okay. I'm sure they are watching this interview right now, and you have a chance or a moment to send them a message right now. What would you say?
I mean, I would mainly just say thank you. And I think they already know that too, where it's very much a thing of, I like to joke where the three of us together are, brains, brawn, beauty, where one brother has the like logical smarts. One brother is very like able to do what he needs to do physically. I'm pretty socially smart, and the three of us round each other out so well. And it's like, I definitely would not be as confident as I am today without them.
Wow. And I believe you are a gay guy,
Correct.
yes?
Yeah.
You are the only one, or there are gays as
I'm
well?
the only one.
Okay, I see.
They're
Interesting.
both super accepting about it though. And it's funny, my brother Zachary is straight, but all of his friends are gay, pretty much. So it's one of those things where I'll talk to his friends and I'm like, these should be
Oh,
my friends, not yours.
oh, that's amazing. I love it. Right. Next question is talking about childhood. Tell me, what do you miss the most from your childhood and why?
I would say I kind of miss the independence
Mm-hmm.
because as a kid, when you're left home alone, it's a fun thing and it's an exciting thing. And, you get to stay up late and watch movies or whatever. But now I think sort of as I'm getting older, I miss sort of the excitement of that being a thing. Obviously, I adore living with my partner, but if he's not there sometimes, it's not the same like excitement or rush that it definitely was.
I see. And when the day when you came out, did something happen, or just felt like, okay, let me be my true self from now on? If you can share
Well,
it.
I actually had a girlfriend at the time, and it was just something where I had said I was bisexual for a while, but because I had a girlfriend and I knew I liked men. But after a while of just like, it was literally an episode of Law and Order, as stupid as that sounds. There was just this one really hot extra on Law and Order, and I was like, well, that did it.
Wow. And how old were you at the time?
I was 16.
Very young. Wow, came out very young. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a very certain person about like what I know and what I like, and I'm
Uh-huh.
very vocal about it often. So it's one of those things where I knew I couldn't sit on it.
Wow, amazing. Next question. Okay, next question is, right, what's the weirdest or the funniest dream we ever had?
I don't remember dreams often, but this one I actually remember from the other day is I had a dream where so this actually happened in real life. I bought a new suitcase, and for whatever reason, I had dreamed that I was deciding to just like roll it along with me to the airport, but instead of carrying it like a normal person, I was pushing it in front of me. And in my dream, it had gone down the steps of a subway station and like took a couple people out, and they were all like trying to figure out who did it. And I was just trying to blend into the crowd, like, guys, who was that? It was me. It was a very weird dream.
When you think about yourself, Danielle, when you analyze yourself, what's the best part of being you? What do you like the most about being yourself?
I adore my intuition. As I mentioned earlier, I'm very certain in the things I like, and I'm very trusting of my own judgment.
Wow.
Where, if I get a bad vibe from something, I'm not going to do it. And more often than not, I'm right. And so I'm very grateful to have that ability where I can sort of have confidence and trust in myself, because if I didn't, I definitely think I would be second guessing a lot of things in my life.
Wow. I'm glad you touched that about intuition. I strongly believe as well that our intuition, is the one of the strongest thing that you need to follow, because it talks to you. It's about
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? It's something there that, even though sometimes you're gonna do something that you know deep inside is wrong or is a mistake, it's your intuition talking to you. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
it's so powerful. I think if all of us we follow our intuition, it can take us to to good places, to make decisions, because somehow it's about ourselves. It's about there is something in ourselves talking to us, directing us somehow. That's how I believe.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's like you said, it's your body's nonverbal way of telling you what it wants or needs.
Yeah. And what's your star sign, astrology?
Ironically, a Gemini, the twin.
That's
You
amazing.
can see
Oh
the irony
wow.
in that, yeah.
Amazing. Next question. Okay, next question is, what is your favorite band or artist of all time and why?
Oh, that is a tough one. I would say currently my favorite artist of all time is, oh man, you're testing me here. I gotta check my Spotify now. Okay, actually, I know what I'm gonna say. It's a bit of an odd choice, but there's this guy named Louis Zong who makes a lot of sort of very ambient house music, but it always has a very creative and sort of neat theme to it. He just released this album or EP called Rat Taxi, which sounds bizarre, but it's very much like sort of city style jazz music. And I always sort of very much like it because it's something that I don't think other musicians are doing, where they're going, right, this guy's just doing his own thing going left. And that's sort of what I value in art.
Wow. Working for Spotify, do you guys can get it for free? Do you have a discount? How do you have
Well,
any?
so this is actually really funny. We do get free Spotify, quote unquote. There's something called a free tier Tuesday, where every Tuesday you get ads. And this is because, when they're testing new features, if they're trying out what's called the nightly build, because they update it all the time, they need someone to test the free version. And most people aren't going to do that. And so the only people that they really are contractually able to force to do it are us.
That's amazing. Oh wow.
It's a really, it's a good, I love the free Spotify, don't get me wrong, but it cracks me up because I used to have it partnered with my Hulu or something. So ironically, I ended up paying more for subscriptions than I saved.
Ready for another one?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Next question. Before the next question, as I could see your eyes shining talking about your partner, tell me, how did your path cross? How everything started?
Yeah, so we had met on Hinge over the pandemic. It was sort of right when we were allowed to start going out again. And I don't know, I feel like the stars just really aligned with that one, where I lived at a fraternity house at the time. I kid you not, I stopped living almost a couple of weeks after meeting him, just because I went over to his house every other day. He would come over to mine. We very quickly found ourselves getting tangled up together. And
Wow.
so having those sort of similar alignments, especially coming out to Boston, we are almost total opposites, which works really well.
Wow. And tell me, how is your Spanish going so far? Have you learned some Spanish or?
Entiendo mucho más que puedo hablar, pero estoy tratando.
Amazing. I love
Yeah,
it.
that means I can understand a lot more than I can speak, but I'm trying.
Amazing. Okay. Next question is, what is the best gift ever received?
The best gift I've ever received. I feel bad because this is going to sound so materialistic, but my brother got me a gaming laptop for Christmas one year. And the reason this is so significant to me is my brother works in esports, the one I'm super close with. And so I don't have a lot of insight into that field. He picked out a computer with all of the, specs that he thought were best. The keyboard he thought would be best. The mouse he thought would be best. So it was something that he clearly put a lot of thought and time and passion into. And he was so excited just watching me open it that I was like, okay, yeah, no, I love it for life now. We're stuck.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
I probably need a new one by now, but I refuse to replace it. It's too sentimental.
Oh, that's very sweet. Very sweet. Right. I have 3 questions left. Let's do it. Before the next question, tell me, as a beekeeper. Tell me a situation or a story, something that happened to you since you've been working as a beekeeper that you're never gonna forget. It's always gonna have a special place in your heart. And the other part of the question is, have you ever been stung by a bee?
Oh yeah, a million, like hundreds of times. And the story that is, it's not a good memory, but it's a memory, is I one time at a client's house, or actually no, it was a hotel. It was on the roof of a hotel, and they had 4 hives, and I was training a new beekeeper on how to do what we were doing. It was raining. I had my fly unzipped at the beehive. Yeah, you can see where this is going. It went there,
Oh
and I
my
got
God.
stung, and I was out of work for a couple days because I was in so much pain.
But so many,
That
you've been stumped many times.
Oh yeah. So this type of suit I usually wear is just a half one where it only goes over my head to my waist. And then as long as you wear thick jeans and boots, you're usually pretty good. For the most part, what the stings feel like is just like sort of getting pricked. You get pricked through the glove. And it doesn't hurt that bad. It more feels like someone with a thumbtack just kind of poking it and removing it. The ones that
Right.
hurt are the face, the like any part of your body, like your stomach or like the back of your neck hurts a lot, and then obviously thighs.
Wow. Wow. Oh my
Some
God.
people believe in stink therapy, though. I'm not a believer personally. I think, apitoxin has many, many uses, like in creams and stuff. Just buy the cream. You don't gotta get stung by the bees.
I remember once when I was a child back in Brazil, where I come from. I remember my grandmother's house. There's still actually some coconut trees. Yeah.
Mhm.
And there was like, the fence, and I was just there at the fence, and I could see those bees there. And for some reason, I kind of shake a little bit, and I turn into the tree, and all of them they come after me, and I just fall
Oh
on the
man.
floor. Oh my God, that was like
Oh.
painful. Thank God, somehow I managed to run, and I had a few stumps, but it wasn't that bad that I didn't go to the
A lot,
hospital.
a lot of the advice people say about when they run from like a bee coming at you isn't true either. Like, I've heard before, dive in the water. They follow the bubbles. Like they'll wait for you to come up. Like they're mean. And it's also another thing where it's like, I feel like the hotter the climate, the meaner the bee.
It makes sense then, because where I come from is very hot, so they were very mean. Okay, next question is, what is the worst first date have you ever been on?
The worst first date I ever went on was when a guy randomly showed me a bullet wound he had on the date. So at the time I worked at a physical therapy office, and I had just brought that up because it was a first date. And I don't know how he took this as, oh, I have a medical situation I should tell you about. Which at first I thought, oh, he tore his shoulder or something, physical therapy. No, it was a bullet wound, like an active bullet wound.
Oh, sorry, explain that to me. What's that? Explain that to me.
Like from a gun, he got shot in the shoulder and the bullet was still in there.
Yes, that's what I want to understand.
And it was very confusing because it was like, I feel like you should go to the hospital or the police, not me.
Oh my God.
It also did not feel like, first date information I needed to know.
I know. Oh my God.
So it was a very like, I pretended to be nice the rest of the night, but I was like, we are not calling him back.
Tell me, how is being gay in Detroit in your experience or in your opinion?
I think it's definitely not nearly as bad as it was when I was a kid, and I'm grateful sort of that the internet wasn't as big as it is now. I say that makes me sound old, so old. Oh my God, I'm 24. But it's like, as a kid, that was the beginning of Twitter. That was the beginning of Instagram and all those things. People could follow you and message, but it really wasn't like mainstream as it is now. I feel like nowadays, everything is so transparent.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like the climate one place is oftentimes the climate everywhere else. So at least in terms of Detroit, like there were people that were supportive, there were people that weren't. Here in Boston, there are people that are supportive, people that weren't. But I think it's now more unpopular to not be, or more unpopular to be homophobic for sure.
That's true.
And so I think it's one of those things where both cities have grown with the times, and they're both a lot better now than they were.
It's interesting. I think social media, the positive side of social media is, I think people, they are express themselves such in a beautiful way that, even those people that they they're against it, they're homophobic, they cannot run away because it's there, it's visible.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are people they're exposing themselves, people they are supporting as well, a lot of people supporting them. So you cannot run away. You cannot run away.
Right.
There are no place of runaway anymore. You are there. You are visible. You need to see
Exactly.
it. You need to face it. And somehow that is helping open people's mind, because it's educating people as well, ourselves as well. I've learned so much here, of course, with interviews from guests around the world, at the same time as well, seeing people expressing themselves so many different ways. It's about open people's minds, and I, even including myself, I've learned so much through it, and it's great. It's great. For that's the positive side of social media, for sure.
It's one of those things where it's like, I really, really love it, because I mean, it even goes beyond just the instance of being gay, where like I catch myself sometimes watching a TikTok and I'm like, wow, I hate that audio, and then I'm repeating it for months.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like it subconsciously changes all of us, because I'd love to sit there and act all high and mighty and say like, just because I saw an Instagram video of two guys kissing doesn't mean I'm gay, but clearly something happened.
Totally, no, absolutely. And even though, as you said, even though if someone that's maybe they come from a country or a place that they never been educated, or they never seen like two guys or two girls or something like kissing, they go like, oh, what's that? So they try. I'm sure if the person maybe gonna do some research, gonna go into it, and you might learn something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot more real too now than it was before, because I feel like sort of in the generation before me, it was a lot of like, you saw it in TV with like Will and Grace or specific characters.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like what we're seeing is not just characters, because even growing up, all like the only really gay people around my age were like James Charles or influencers.
Yeah.
But we're getting like real, authentic people.
Absolutely.
And that representation is like much more powerful than a character, in my opinion. I'm not saying that it wasn't good for the time, but I appreciate the progress that is sort of being made.
Absolutely. 2 questions left. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Next question is, tell me something that you won and how did you win it? Something special.
Something special I won. I think in high school, one thing I won that I was really proud of is I was in what was called the Color Guard or Winter Guard. It's like the little flag twirlers. My freshman year, I tried to do it. I was told no because they thought I was going to get bullied or whatever, because I was going to be a guy in it. My junior year of high school, I came back in and I was like, okay, I've come out now. I have the confidence. Like, if they're going to call me gay, they're right. So might as well just go with it. And so I got on the team. And not only that, I got so good. I got like to audition for a solo and I got it. I got to go to all these competitions in like Pittsburgh and nationals. And it was so fun. And it was something that like, the only reason I got it wasn't because of skill, wasn't because of luck, wasn't because of anything. It was because I asked and because I just kept trying. And that to me is way more valuable than like winning something without trying.
Wow, amazing. Wow. Ready for the last question?
I am.
Let's do it. Last question. Daniel, before the last question, as you mentioned so beautifully about your dream of being a beekeeper, and it happened to you. Tell me, people watching this interview right now, maybe they would like to to start a career as well, or maybe they have a dream as well to become a beekeeper. What would be your best piece of advice?
I would say my best piece of advice is it's not just about the chase, it's about the moderation. I love beekeeping, but at the same time, I work 2 jobs because I did it so hard that I burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough just to have one really exciting thing. You need to have your balance where you can live the rest of your life in such a way that you're able to enjoy the one thing. Mm-hmm. When I was doing it all the time, I wasn't always making enough money. And so it was very much a thing where I felt like at times I was giving up my passions for money. But now very much I see that that's not true, because, I work somewhere else and I'm still just as passionate as I was before. That hasn't left. I've taught everyone, like all the people in my office know me as the guy that talks about bees. And I've got so many fun talks, so many fun lessons and things centered around it, where it's like, you don't have to give anything up if you don't want to.
Wow. Tell me true curiosity about that. When you mentioned about the queen bee, how do you find them? How do you get them in a place? Explain to me.
So there's essentially a couple steps when At the very beginning, if you're doing what's called an installation, it comes in a cage and it's got a little dot on it. Fun fact, actually, you can tell how old a queen is by the dot on her. there's a sort of 5-year pattern they do called Will You Raise Good Bees, which means white, yellow, red, blue, or yeah, white, yellow, red, green, blue. And so if it starts with a 0, it's white, and so on and so forth, and it just cycles around again. So whatever year it was, that's how you know for sure. Otherwise, you can tell by the physiology of it. Drones are a little bit fatter, they're the males. Workers are a little bit smaller. They look more shiny, more like shellac, sort of the bee that we know. And then the queen has a really long abdomen. So it's sort of, you tell by size more often. It's also just behavior as well. The queen is most often found closest to the larva and eggs that she's trying to lay. And then most bees will also try to protect the queen. So if if you see her and you see a bunch of bees cover something, you know what it is.
Wow, that's interesting. And all those places when you're gonna put them, it must be just one queen. There's must be just one in the whole.
Usually, sometimes they'll try to raise multiple queens at once. Basically, you know a queen is coming because something called a queen cup will happen, where
Wow.
it's a specific shape in the honeycomb that is different than what a normal bee egg looks like. And so sometimes the current alive queen will eat the larva out of the queen cells because she doesn't want to be replaced. Sometimes the larva will hatch and it takes over the other queen because it's stronger and kills her.
Wow.
Sometimes my personal favorite is they swarm. So I think about this a lot like a cell, how it replicates its own DNA and then splits into 2 halves. What will happen sometimes is if a bee population is getting too high for its like designated living area, it will just, one queen will take 50% of the population and go somewhere else. That's when you see them sort of hanging out on trees, hanging out in huge
Wow.
nature. And that's when they're actually the most docile. You can touch them with your bare hands at that time, which is really fun.
Wow. How long can live a bee? Like a regular, do you know how long?
It's so bees are a bee's life is basically measured in its physical use. If it's a bee that's born in winter and it spends most of its time hibernating, not really doing anything but eating, it'll live a lot longer. It can live up to a couple months, maybe a year. But if it's a bee in the summer months where they fly up to 2 miles every day for food, they're going to run out of like abilities to do that. The funny thing is too, though, as bees get older and have more physical usage, they are way more likely to sting. It's this really beautiful mechanism in which the ones that they're sending to sting and essentially kill themselves are already the most expendable of that population. They're not as good at collecting resources anymore. They're not really as fertile anymore. They're not providing in the same way that the other younger bees are. And so rather than, going out on nature's terms, they go out on their own, which I think is a kind of cool thing.
Wow, amazing. My God, I could be talking to you another hour just about that.
I could talk about bees for another 8 hours, trust me.
Last question is, who is a celebrity you admire and why?
Oh, man. I would say, I have to think on that. I really like a lot of musicians, but it's tricky because I don't know a lot of them personally, and I'm always worried about having like a parasocial sort of relationship with it. I guess the best answer I could give that is like the qualities that I admire in a celebrity is that it's transparency and realness. Like sort of as I mentioned earlier with social media, I don't really love the smoke and mirrors of it all where we're all pretending to be someone we're not. And so when I see sort of like people like Brittany Broski, who's an influencer, for example, I adore her and I think she's hilarious because it's like at least I feel as I can tell, she seems like she's being herself. It's something I would do if I was in that position, and that's what I'm drawn to, is people that I think would make the same decisions I would and not be driven by greed. But, a lot of people say that and then get money and it goes different.
All right. It's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game. Okay, I'm going to give away some words. Just name one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking. Let's start with politics.
Ah,
Okay. Money.
not enough.
Fear.
Not enough.
Love.
You can never have enough, I'd say.
Life.
I think it's way too short.
Family.
I think it's not as important as everyone puts a value on.
Sex.
2 thumbs up.
Ooh. Religion.
Not for me. I respect it, but it's not.
Friendship.
I think it could be more impactful than even love sometimes.
Desire.
I think desire is a dangerous thing.
Very dangerous can be. Yes. Regret.
I think regret sometimes has a purpose.
Success.
I'd say that looks different.
Wish.
I think wishes are sometimes futile.
Happiness.
I think happiness is the standard.
One word for Michigan State.
Tenacious.
One word for Massachusetts.
Wild.
USA, one word.
Blending, I would say.
One word for Spotify.
One word for Spotify, I would say innovative.
Wow. The last one now, beekeeper, one word.
Everything.
Let's pretend now I'm going to meet your two brothers, yeah? And I'm going to have a coffee with them, and I'm going to ask them, define Daniel in one positive word and one negative word only. What they would say?
I would say, they would say, both say different things. My brother William, who's sort of much more logical and straight thinking, I would say he views me as very charismatic, but he also views me as very emotional.
Interesting.
My brother Zachary, I would say, views me as very intelligent in ways I don't even think I'm intelligent. But at the same time, he also knows that I am very like fluctuating in my moods, where I tend to not always have a filter with him, especially with my brothers who I'm so close with, because it's why bother?
Wow. If I would ask the same question to your lovely partner, would be the same answer?
I think it would be a different answer. My partner, I think he is sort of the very like type A leader, innovative type person. And it's very ironic. I actually become a completely different person around him, where I tend to not talk as much, which is shocking to me, but it's also a very nice thing. And I think he sort of, we both shared very different areas of expertise. He views me as very like capable and intuitive. So sort of like I appreciate that he trusts my judgment so much on things, but I also know he views me as someone who is like, once I get my mindset on something, I'm not stopping.
All right. Let's play now, Daniel, in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. But before you ask me the question, what's your favorite Spanish word?
My favorite Spanish word, rompecabezas,
Which means?
which is a brain teaser.
Say again?
It's rompecabezas. So it's sort of formed of two words. It's rompe, which is like to break, and then cabezas, which is heads. So it's sort of a word for anything that's like a brain teaser or something that's just really difficult to figure out. I think it's a fun word to say. I love adding like just rompe anything. It's just fun.
Amazing. Okay, you can ask me a question now.
So what is sort of the biggest lesson you would tell to your younger self now?
Wow, what an amazing question. Well, the biggest lesson I'll tell myself is, I think all of us, when we love something, when we are, we want to do something in life, we put a lot of energy. We put a lot of things. We just want to go for it. Sometimes, we spend so much energy, and sometimes we get drained. And what I would tell my younger self would say, you know what? Keep going the way you are, but remember, it's not just up to you. Everything needs to work at the same time. The weather needs to be at a certain time. People around you need to somehow contribute as well for the same goal or the same way. So it's not, you can go, but if not everything is going together, it's not going to get there. So everything needs to work together for you to get there. It's brilliant for you to keep going and have this mindset of going after your dreams or whatever you're going after. However, you need to always remember, slow down a little bit and let other things around you work the same way as well. Work together, the universe, the rain or the sun or the winds, anything around you needs to contribute and to go together for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve in your life, because it's not just up to us. We need to remember that everything needs to work together. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
That's such a poignant way to put it, because I mean, you're exactly right. I think definitely my younger self as well could not accept that there were things I couldn't control. If there was something I wanted, I was like, why can't it happen?
I know.
So, yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there.
And again, sometimes you just need to remember to tell yourself, you're doing well, you're doing great, but however, let things happen together as well. That's everything going together, and you're gonna get to a very beautiful place when you learn that, for sure.
Absolutely. It's hard to know when you're that young that there's no rush, for
I
sure.
know. Danielle, did you enjoy the interview?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for you. Thanks so much for being so kind and being part of the show. And thank you so much for giving all this knowledge about bees. I love it. I think I can't wait
Thank
to
you so
talk
much.
to talk about that with my friends, because it's so fascinating to hear all those little knowledge. Of course, as I said, I could stay another hour here talking about. But thanks so much. Thanks for sharing this. I think people appreciate that as well. You never know, people can watch this interview and they might have a fascination for bees as well, and just listen to you talking about is very fascinating. But before you
Thank you.
go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
Yeah, I would say the most positive message I have is just trust your gut for the good and the bad. Because, we talked about the bad earlier, but trust your gut for the good. When it tells you to go somewhere, to go on that social outing, go. When it tells you to go do that thing, go try that new gym, go, pick up a new skill, learn how to play guitar, whatever. Even if you only do it for a month, just try it. Just try something. There's nothing wrong with trying something new, putting it back, and starting it later.
I love it. Just do it. Just go for it. That's what I believe. Thank you so much. Regards to your part, to your brothers as well. My God, triple. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. I love it. Keep in touch, okay? Thanks for the interview.
Thank you
Okay?
so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye. See you next time.